the time of year when we start to think about seasonal art projects. And sometimes it's hard to think beyond things we've done before. And it's hard to think of things that really give our students voice and choice and still have that connection with a seasonal theme. What I want to do today is show you some suggestions of things that you might try in your class that your students might enjoy, and that will hopefully give your students a variety of things to choose from. The first thing I wanted to mention is when we're designing our projects, we always think in terms of how are we teaching the elements of art. The elements of art are things like line, shape, form, texture, value, color, and space. So the projects I'm going to be talking about today all deal with some of those elements of art. The other thing we want to do when we're designing our projects is think in terms of our three strands in our curriculum outcomes of create, connect, and communicate. So how can you put together an art activity where your students are not just creating, but also connecting to other things or other texts or other ideas and giving them opportunity to communicate their thoughts either through their images or speaking about their images. The first thing I want to talk about as far as an art project you might try with your students is just a simple basic observation drawing. Observation drawing means you're drawing while you're looking at something. When your students are asked to draw a pumpkin, they, like us, have a symbol in their head of what a pumpkin is supposed to look like, and they try to draw that symbol, and they will do that regardless of what you ask them to draw. But if you give them the actual objects to look at, you're going to find that they start taking in much more realistic detail, that their drawings are more varied from each other and much more expressive. And you'll find this from kindergarten right up to grade 5. So I went to my local farm market this morning and bought a variety of gourds and pumpkins and squash. And these are the kinds of things that I would share with my students to draw. So we have everything from the big traditional orange pumpkin to miniature gourds to really bizarrely shaped and textured gourds. When you want them to draw a pumpkin, you can certainly take pumpkins in for them to look at so they can see that some of them are big and some of them are round and some of them are rectangular. But small ones are really great too because you can put those right on their tables and they can handle them and they can see that there's a lot of other colors in this other than orange, and they can see that lines, they can see the shape that this makes when you look at it from this direction is different from this direction. They can see the variations in textures in that. And it's really great if you can show them some other kinds of gourds besides just the traditional pumpkin so they can see the other kinds of colors that might appear in there and the other kinds of surfaces you could get. This way they're focusing on a whole range of shapes, not just that traditional pumpkin shape. And they're also starting to look at color, they're starting to look at texture, they're starting to look at the variations that they see in these and not just trying to do each one the same. This is a great kind of project to do whether you're drawing with pencil, pastels, pencil crayons, or if you want to bring in paint, paint is great for observation as well. And if you wanted to include even more texture in that, you could give them other things to paint with besides brushes, like sponges or scouring pads, things that are going to make different kinds of marks so they can start to try to recreate the textures they see there. Beyond observation drawing, we can get into all kinds of wonderfully imaginative things. Instead of asking your students to draw a pumpkin or a jack-o'-lantern so that they're all looking like that symbol of a pumpkin and jack-o'-lantern, try to have them customize it in different ways. One of the things you might do is to invite them to create a self-portrait with their head as a pumpkin. So self-portrait as pumpkin head. And in that, they can try to get across some idea that it's them, bring across parts of who they are, either by their clothing for older students or for younger students, and they might add their hair. And this will work regardless of whether it's a kindergartner or a fifth grader. You'll have some really wonderful kindergarten drawings with arms and legs sticking out in all directions. But for the older students, they can start to look at the patterns in their clothing and the way that they stand. These can be displayed really beautifully on a bulletin board together. But what's really cool when you start doing a project that has that kind of quantity and variation is if you have them cut them all out and put them together as a crowd instead. That way you've got a whole class crowd of pumpkin heads instead of a lot of little individual pumpkin heads standing alone. So think about not just how they're drawing, but how you're going to showcase what they're doing as well. A third idea for something you could do in pumpkin season, and I'm going to give full credit to Beth Christie for this one, is pitch this idea to them. The idea of the jealous fruit bowl. This time of year, pumpkin is getting all the attention and the other fruit are getting jealous. So what if the other fruit tried to disguise themselves as pumpkins so that they could get some attention too? This is a great project that would allow for all kinds of possibilities of choice. So 3 different choices off the top of my head. One is students could create portraits of the fruit disguised as pumpkins. What does the banana look like? What does the apple look like? Or they could create a comic strip where they're doing panels about pumpkins and they're about fruit disguised as pumpkins. And what would happen to them? What if the banana did try to disguise itself as a pumpkin? What kind of adventure would he go on? And would those grapes ever get away with it anyway? Or they could create disguises or masks for the fruit so that they could be disguised as pumpkins. If you give them those 3 choices and they pick one, then you're going to already have a variety of things happening in your class. And going back to the idea of comic strips, students really like making comic strips, and it's a great opportunity to use all those little pieces of paper that you have left over from other things. So they can give them a piece of paper that they can divide up into 3 panels to create a comic strip. They can divide it into 4 panels to create a comic strip, and the comic strips can be wordless, or you could have them write text for that as well. So you have a little cross-curricular literacy as in your project. You could have a project that is about nighttime, because Halloween is definitely a nighttime theme, and it'll give you a chance to look at some of your wonderful picture books that use night as a theme and create drawings using black construction paper and night scenes using pastels, white pastels and color pastels. They could have a little pumpkin hidden in their night drawing. It doesn't have to be the focus of attention. For something like this, you could ask them to draw where they live. And it could be an apartment building, a bungalow, a duplex. Again, lots of opportunities for student choice and voice in this, while still sticking with your theme. Collage is a wonderful material for working with any subject, and they could certainly collage a pumpkin. And collage could be leftover scrapbooking paper, it could be wrapping paper, it could be your leftover construction paper. Collage doesn't just have to be that either. You can draw on the collage. And if you're talking about the elements of art, great opportunity to really focus on shapes, because they're cutting all the shapes out, working on scissor skills, and you could add lines with something like Sharpie marker. Sharpie markers love collages. You could do a project where they are planting a seed. So have a bunch of pumpkin seeds. They could plant a seed in a drawing. Attach the seed to the paper and draw the roots coming out of the seed, draw the plant growing out of the seed, draw the pumpkins growing off the plant. Not only are you giving them a wonderful art project to do, but you can also work in some cross-curricular science content with that. You could do a transformation project where pumpkin doesn't transform into Cinderella's carriage, but transforms into something else. What could a pumpkin become? Could a pumpkin become a dog? Could a pumpkin become a house? What else could a pumpkin become? Ask that to a group of 2nd graders, and I'm sure you'll learn all kinds of things that a pumpkin could become that we haven't thought of. So I hope these give you a few ideas on how to plus up your pumpkin project, and I hope you have a good time this holiday season, this autumn season, creating wonderful art with your students. Thanks for tuning in, and we'd love to see what you do with this. If you use any of these ideas or come up with ones of your own, post them here on Teams so we can share them with each other. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.